It's past the spring equinox. I can tell the sun is so bright in here. Hi, I'm Joe Pasevich. It's Control Room, and it is April 16th, 2025. Where were you on April 16th last year?
April 16th last year. Probably a selectmen's meeting room.
Yeah, okay.
Probably.
So in other words, things are the same. We're just going about our same old routines. We're here at Marshfield Community Media Studios once again, and the lights are really bright tonight. I don't know if we can get those. I should have brought my shades, but I can probably wear my cap. I don't know if I can, what I can do about that. We'll get through it one way or another. Ooh, well, that's a little bit better. Otherwise, I was going to have to put on my my sunscreen. I'm here with Amy Troop.
Yes.
Amy Troop is back again.
Hello.
She just keeps showing up. I don't know. And Ken Sweezy and Pat O'Connor, okay, you guys are going to have to wait, okay? If we have time for you, we'll get you on. That's a little inside joke, okay? But yeah, if we have time for Pat and Ken, we'll have them on. All right? And I'm in a casual shirt today. I just want to say I do get fan mail, and I get a lot of nasty stuff too. Sometimes I get envelopes with like no return addresses on them, you know, with the pasted on stuff like that. You pasted on letters.
Oh,
and
like
stuff.
magazine letters.
Yeah, like really nasty stuff. I haven't gotten one in a while, but not too long ago, one of my fans wrote to me and said, "I just don't know who the real Joe Pasevich is. Sometimes you show up in a suit and tie, and sometimes you show up in just a plain shirt. I just don't know who the real Joe is."
Don't you just have to go with the flow? Every day is a new day.
Yeah, whatever I feel
Take
comfortable
it as it
in.
is.
There's no dress code here. You know, I mean, you know, I'm not known to be a snappy dresser anyway, so if you get me in a tie, you're lucky. All right, enjoy it while you can. But anyway, so what's going on, Amy? What are you picking up? We got so much going on in town. First, I want to remind everybody, town meeting, April 28th, okay?
And probably April 29th.
Probably, exactly. Amy knows. She knows how it works. April 28th and probably the 29th, there's an annual town meeting, which is relatively short. It's only 11 articles. Okay, 11 articles on the annual town meeting. However, some of the things that we normally see in annual town meetings have been shifted over to special town meeting.
Really?
Why are they doing that? We're trying to figure out why are they doing that. Oh, now the special town meeting warrant has 24 articles on it.
Interesting.
Now, interesting, right, because what usually happens, remember we played the bingo ball clip? We probably should play that again for fun at some point.
Well, it was really just Scrabble letters because they had it all out.
They had it all prearranged.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they drew the letters, how they arranged them, how they determined the order, it's very, very suspicious, okay? But what we know, oh, here we go. Here we go. Are we gonna
Look see, that's the Scrabble.
I really like the sound of that.
I like the sound of it too.
One good time.
It takes a special kind of person to act and lie like that.
We're going to take out two articles. We're going to take out two balls. The first one will be
two
the
balls.
Number in green is the article that's
Three,
on
yeah.
deck, and then
He's psychic.
we're going to draw another number to let the people know who's coming up next.
Wow.
That helps with our efficiency. So,
Oh, efficiency is
Who's
the name of the
first?
game.
Article 3 will be the middle school roof article.
No kidding.
And
Wow. That's
what's
what we all
what's
came for.
on deck.
She was
Mr.
holding it the whole
Moderator.
time.
Mr. Moderator,
Oh.
I like the slowdown of the voices.
So the article that that the vast majority of people were there for, mysteriously came up
First.
like there was a big slug of participating voters that showed up because they wanted to vote on that school roof article And isn't it a coincidence that, see, those kinds of people will come to a town meeting usually because they're single issue. And they want to make sure that school roof article went through. So they all showed up en masse. And as soon as that got out of the way, what do?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Back to TV land, okay? And wouldn't you know, because see, there were other articles on the warrant that night where we could use some sort of neutral or uncommitted people, and they could be open to being convinced or
Educated.
Ooh, don't have that. Can't have that.
Well, because they probably don't know about a lot of the stuff that's
Right.
on it.
All they know is they came there for Article 3 and they want to get that done. And the people on the dais, you know, it's very advantageous to the establishment to get the neutrals or uneducated people that can't be predicted. You can't predict how they're going to vote, but you know how your team is going to vote. And you know your team is there.
Yeah.
You know your team
Is
is there.
it mostly town employees like in my town?
It's town employees and some of their families. It's also people that do business with the town, and that in some way they're connected or beholden to the town.
Okay.
It's always the way it is. It's just like we played this clip many times, where if you want to be on an appointed board or committee, all right, you send in an application. And that application, you are vetted. Okay, Bob Parkus, I talked to Bob earlier today, by the way. Bob Parkus always had a saying that the insiders select, elect, and direct the selectmen. Okay, that's the top board of the town, right? Also, we know that when you send in an application, you say, well, I want to be on a board or committee, I'd be good at this. And you send it in, what happens to it? Well, if it's like me years ago, it went into a very strong circular steel container, okay, in the town administrator's office. But we had a guy named George Shaw who had a viewpoint on what happens to people that want to get on a local board or committee.
Well, they're not going to be selected if they're not going to go along with what the
That's right.
what the inner power wants to do.
They have to be vetted and checked out, okay? So, so they know who their people are, and we know who their people are. I can walk into any town meeting and say, oops, insider crew is here. And on other nights, if the outsider crew, the naysayer crew, as they call us, is there, well, I can tell that too, you know? So anyway, but obviously, in my opinion, from what I see, they wanted to get those sort of neutral, unaligned people out of there, so they would then seize and there'd be no chance on the articles that would follow up on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so as I was saying, there are 11 articles in the annual town meeting. There are 24 on the special town meeting. And here's the thing. Why are some articles that are on the annual town meeting now on the special town meeting warrant? This is Jeopardy, right? Or you can ask ChatGPT AI. Well, because when you go to an annual town meeting in April, what happens is you open the annual town meeting and then you vote to adjourn the annual town meeting and go into special town meeting. So what happens is special town meeting always is taken up before annual town meeting. And there are some things in here on the special town meeting warrant that they want to get out of the way earlier rather than later. Like, in other words, the first night, not the second night. Why is that? Why is that? Well, there are some things on the annual warrant, namely the budget, which is huge. They want to basically take care of some special interests concerns that have now been put into the special town meeting warrant. They want to get those people out of there. They don't want them to be there for the budget discussion on the second night.
Yeah.
So there you go. So you're going to have a mass of people there to vote on spending like $1 million on ball fields. And I get nothing against ball fields. I'll vote for it in a heartbeat. I think there's work that needs to be done on the ball field. Some people disagree with me. But they want those mobs. And for some reason, those people think that the ball fields article is going to fail. You know, they're like, oh, we got to get like 300 people there, you know. And I'm like, don't worry about it. There's not going to be a problem with that. So there are some special interest articles in here that normally would be on the annual warrant. They put on the special warrant to get it done with and get those people out the door.
Well, it's
That's
true.
how the sausage is made.
Yeah, but that's why the choosing the articles out of the bingo thing was supposed to be.
It's supposed to be random.
But again, people should be staying for the entire town meeting
That's
both
true.
nights in order to guard their property from.
That's true. But we haven't overcome human nature, okay? And people just do what they have to do and then they get out of there.
Where is the overlay?
Well, there's something that's going to come up at the special town meeting. Is a lot of big fat appropriations out of free cash. Now, why that is in the special town meeting warrant, I'm really not sure. But I know that there are people that are catching on and are probably going to want to amend some of those appropriations. That could happen. At the same time, who's going to get up and amend police, fire, library, IT programs, stuff like that? Those are usually typically a non-touchable or untouchable things. You know, you get up and you say, hey, I'm against the police, or I'm against the police getting $284,000. I asked that question before. I said, didn't we just appropriate a police budget? And now you're tacking on another $250. What's it for? And I mean, I want the police to have the best equipment and the best training, but don't keep surprising the taxpayer with these big lump sum deposits or tranches in the middle of the fiscal year. It doesn't make sense to me, you know? Anyway, the other thing you have to remember, by the way, is the election is still on for May the 3rd. May the 3rd from 9 to 4 at the high school, 9 to 4, and you know who the big candidates are for the selectmen's race. Lynn Fiddler and Trish Simpson, okay? And there has been some developments related to that race, I hate to say, or I have to say, and we're going to talk about those now. And also there is a school committee race that's contested. You have two incumbents, Lara Brait and Rich Greer, that are running for re-election, but a third wheel has jumped in.
Right?
Yeah, Scott Swain has jumped in. And so now only two of the three can get in, okay? Lara Brait is typically a very high vote getter, and Rich Greer is a townie, longtime school committee member. So we'll see how that goes, because there's some unhappiness with the current makeup of the school committee, and Scott Swain does come across as a rather fiscally and socially conservative person who's got some issues with some of the school committee decisions in the past. So he could be a breath of fresh air, is what I'm trying to say. But, you know, three-way races for two slots sometimes get a little tricky.
Yep.
You know, sometimes people decide that if there's somebody they really want to see get in, they'll bullet vote that person. So think about it when you go to the polls. Now, why is the select board race been sort of touched a little bit? Well, what happened last Wednesday? Our town administrator disappeared. You know, in the old Stalinist days, you know, if there's Mike Maresco, he's no longer he will not be coming to town hall anytime soon that I'm aware of. I understand he is, well, anyway, I'm not going to reveal too much, but he all of a sudden went away. And if you lived in Stalinist Russia, you know that sometimes people went away. And if you were even in a photograph with somebody, you know, that photograph would resurface, but you wouldn't be in it anymore. And if you were stupid enough to ask, hey, what happened to my friend Ivan? Then one of Stalin's guys would say, oh, do you miss Ivan? Would you like to go see him? You can go where he went too. We can arrange that. So in other words, people go away and there's silence about it. It's like it never happened. And that's what's happening in Marshfield right now.
Yeah.
Our town administrator went away. You were on the periphery paying, you know, keeping tabs on this.
Yeah.
Town administrator goes away. We don't know why, except that he gets 6 months' pay.
Wait, I thought it was only 3 that he could get.
Well, according to from what I know about his contract, is that if he were to resign, he gets nothing.
Right.
Right? If he did something bad, you've been a bad boy, he gets 3 months. If he were to be like let go, he would get 3 months. If he did something bad, he would be let go. If somebody said, we want you out of here just because we want you out of here, then technically or legally, he could probably sue to be paid for the rest of his contract time, which was like 17 months. So he gets 3 months' pay, which is consistent with him doing something bad and being fired. Plus, he got another 3 months severance package on top of that.
Oh.
So he gets essentially 6 months' pay, the way I understand it right now.
Got it.
But there's no discussion about what led up to this. We do know that there were a couple of meetings in executive session prior to the fateful day or moment last Wednesday morning when his contract was under discussion and nobody knew what that was. Was he trying to get an extension? Was he afraid that Trish Simpson might win the election on the May the 3rd and that she would not want to keep Maresco around? We don't know. And so therefore would he be going to Lynn Fiddler and Steve Darcy now and get them to vote on an extension to keep him in for as long as he wanted? But the guy's 62, 63, and he's getting close to retirement anyway. So nobody really knows what happened.
Huh.
He just disappeared.
But didn't you have a meeting the other day that you were supposed to find out what happened?
There was nothing of the sort. The select board just scheduled an executive session last Wednesday morning, and it was to discuss his contract and discuss other matters related to him. And they come out of executive session, and a press release that we read last week,
Right.
because it happened a week ago, and it just basically is a goodbye letter. There it is right there. And I think Maresco himself wrote that. If I had to guess who wrote that goodbye letter, I would say it was Mike Maresco, probably with the assistance
Like
of
the
town
pat
council.
on the back, the pat on the back. and-
Yeah. All it says is we would like to thank Michael Maresco for his several years of dedicated service to the town as town administrator, and then all the other wonderful things he claims to have done or been involved with.
COVID-19
His
crisis.
countless hours, of volunteer service.
Of getting $236,000.
Right. If I was getting paid $230,000, $240,000, I'd find some free time to do good things. I mean, I do a lot of good things now as it is. I'm not just, patting myself on the back. So he would like to offer his appreciation. So it didn't say I'm leaving. But between the lines, it's obviously clear that he was done. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's it. He's gone. Now, all we can do at this point is speculate, and this is a huge disservice to the public. I will say, though, that there were a lot of areas where he could have been caught up in some malfeasance or wrongdoing. I mean, the solar panels contracts around town that he signed off, apparently with the help of Attorney Galvin, as far as I understand, those are, to me, those are very, very questionable, because we never authorized multiple solar contracts.
You only had one, right?
One, that's
At
right.
the school, correct?
At the landfill. There's Bob.
Oh, the landfill.
The landfill, right. And then there was the roofing contracts, a $3.5 million no-bid contract for roof work on elementary schools. It's like, what? You can't do that.
Yeah, you have to go out to bed.
Right. And then there was the fact that
Oh my goodness.
when he went to present the budget, that's going to be on the warrant for the town meeting.
SSVT is not on there.
The South Shore, you got it. This lady knows more than the average town resident, right? So the South Shore Vocational Technical School, from what we understand the rules to indicate, is that you have to have a separate item on your warrant that says the South Shore Vocational Technical School District assessment or bill is X number of dollars. Do you approve to vote it? To pay it, that kind of thing. In a sense, Mike Maresco's right. We did lock on into the South Shore Vocational Technical School District, and there are a lot of numbers that we didn't have when we did that. And actually, we didn't even know that we were going to be helping to build a new school. Okay,
That's kind of a big ticket item
I would
to
say
talk
so.
about.
But one thing we did know for sure is that based on the number of students that we have this year at the South Shore Vocational Tech, there is a bottom line dollar figure that goes with that. You get 38 students at this school, multiplied times some factor, it equals $710,000. So everybody knew that's what we owed.
Okay.
And it should have been in the warrant, and they didn't put it. And myself and others asked about the specifics of this at the advisory board, select board meeting, and we got a lot of song and dance, a lot of soft shoe. And in fact, there it is right there.
I understand what Mr. Maresco just said, but that would imply that the vote that took place on the South Shore Tech School implied that whatever costs result from that the town inherently agrees to it, and town meeting actually has no ability to vote up or down that expense, because in fact they already have agreed to the expense. But I don't think that's the way it works. Can you help me understand that?
I'll have to read the specific on this.
There's Pam.
My understanding is when we approved the vote, we agreed to participate in the construction of the new school. I don't know whether our involvement has increased. I don't know any of those facts or figures. I assume as a part of the education budget, they've got a line item in their budget that we don't see that provides for the tuition expense that we have to pay over to them. I don't know whether that's able to cover all or a portion of next year. I wouldn't have no way of knowing. But we're on the hook for the tuition, no matter what that is.
Is that
and I
Pam
believe
at
that
the mic?
we
Yep.
have
Okay.
to come up with some way to pay for the assessment that we're going to get for the construction of the school when that's determined. My understanding is we'll either have to come up with a debt exclusion article or come up with some other way of paying for the debt expense. I don't know what the specifics are at this point.
Ms. Keith?
I can tell you how it works. I've seen it in years just from reading news or seeing
Bob.
news or seeing happen to see someone else's warrant article or whatever from time to time. First of all, you've got three things, basically law or regulations. We have the agreement, the South Shore Tech agreement, that says that you do your budget process according to state law. The state law is Chapter 71, Section 16B. It goes over regional school budgets. And then you also have
You
CMR
must have just forgot.
603-41.05.
He was-
I can read you the language
There's
from the
stuff going on.
CMR
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it is the
How it
most
is.
clear. I mean, they're all clear. But the adopted budget, which is adopted at the regional school committee level, and it says certified by their treasurer, shall be placed before each local appropriating authority for its consideration. That is done in every town at annual town meeting. Every town who is a member of the regional school district has a separate line where they have their, if it's Situate Public Schools, separate line, South Shore Tech Regional School. It's two different lines on the budget. They're two distinct school districts. Our school budget should not be paying for the South Shore Tech. I mean, but whatever money, it's all the town's money, so I guess it doesn't totally matter. But there's a whole process where, I mean, it's not a long process. It's the regional school committee adopts the budget. It is certified. They use the word certified in their meeting when they voted, but the law says certified by the treasurer. It goes to our treasurer. It has to be done within so many days. All of this has to be done before the earliest town meeting of a member town, the annual town meeting. So again, it hinges on annual. So it comes to our treasurer. Everybody's allocations are known. Whitman, it was in the news, what Whitman's was. It's on their warrant. Situate's got it on their warrant. The school superintendent, Mr. Hickey, made some visits to different towns. I don't know that he did ours. So everybody knows their assessment. Ours is, like he said, somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000. We also owe them some money for stabilization, so that's probably included.
Who's he texting?
And it's supposed to be on the warrant. It wasn't there last year. It's a low number that we're paying for this current school year. It's like $59,000, but it's going to be 700 and something. It's not supposed to wait till the fall.
Well, I guess that's what I'm getting to. I don't understand why it's not there. It sounds like there's still some process issues that are ongoing, but
And so what they were telling us, what Mike Maresco and the treasurer were telling us was that, well, yeah, there is a payment due in August, but see, that's already kind of too late. But we have to approve that appropriation of money, even though we're on the hook to stay inside the South Shore Tech District. Technically, it still has to be approved because you can't spend money without town meeting approval. You really can't. It has to be
Especially
authorized somewhere.
$710,000.
Amy's into process, right? I mean, like we all should be into process. Because as Jerry Williams, rest his soul, used to say, if you don't have process, you don't have anything. And not just Jerry Williams, but the forefathers before him, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so that was a problem, and we asked questions. We tried to drill down to see where they were hiding that $710,000 and how they were going to actually pay it. Is it possible such a voc district would let us ride a little bit? But the 710 is due and it's supposed to be there. So this is just a number of things that we don't know what happened. No one's telling us. Did the treasurer screw it up? Did Mike Moresco screw it up? Why was it kept out of sight?
I don't know, but I'm finding a common denominator with the town doing this. Like, for instance, your housing authority seat is not on the warrant.
Yes.
I mean, on the ballot, sorry.
On the warrant, that's right, on the ballot. That's a real, wow. That's a real scandal.
But that was just okay.
Oh, yeah.
Just okay.
Well, again, we played the tape of the town clerk coming into the select board meeting going, I have the papers, and the two people with the highest votes the last time are going to arm wrestle, just like a bunch of mumbo jumbo, blowing smoke and the whole thing. It was just bizarre. It's bizarre. And, the procedures, I mean, if the residents have to hold your officials accountable and school them, wow, it's time for some new officials, don't you think?
I would say, but I mean, don't you think that they should be getting out, like, right now with the, to me, I've already seen 2 things by your town clerk that are quite alarming.
Yeah.
She should be out. And again, that's a vote for Trish Simpson because obviously Fiddler's going right along with this.
And, and see, the thing is that's what happens, that Fiddler and Darcy basically upheld the town clerk. And it's the select board by law that sets the ballot. And they let the town clerk set it, and they didn't even check it to see that it was correct. And they said, oh, we approve it. But I have the statute here somewhere that it's not the town clerk that sets the ballot or the warrants, including the ballot. But that's Lynn Fiddler and Steve Darcy. That's the establishment doing what they want, and that's the hallmark of the Moresco years and regime, is that they kind of just do things their way when they want to do it. That's the summation.
And unfortunately, by doing that, they're not following with the process, and America is going down the tubes because with these different grants coming in and changing all of our laws, and they're just having fun with your money. There should be some process, but it's not even just about money and taxes on your house. There's laws that are coming down that are changing and making a big issue.
And what do people do? They complain.
Yeah.
They complain, my taxes are going up. Ooh, they're doing things that are shady. Well, guess why? Because you're letting them do it.
Yep.
You're not going to town meeting.
April 28th and 29th, it should be on your calendar, and please stay the whole entire time.
And what's going to be the last article on the agenda? Article 11 on the annual town meeting. It'll come last on the second night, and it's to change the zoning regulations down in Brant Rock.
The overlay.
We put in an overlay, and there it is. There's Brant Rock. You can see in the middle of your screen, there's a large, let me see where I get my bearings here. Yeah, there's a building right there, a big vacant lot. You see it with the tire tracks going through it?
Yep.
That vacant lot, that side of the Esplanade, is what is being targeted for a development project.
How do
right
those
now.
houses feel about being next door to that?
They're not feeling too good at all.
3 stories.
3 stories, 87 units are being floated. But I think
With retail, it's mixed use.
well, they're going to take the 2 restaurants that are there now and incorporate it into the new structure. They're going to knock down the existing 2 restaurants.
Where's the parking?
Good question. The sketches, and we have the sketches right here. We showed them right there. There's the blue boxes of the 2 restaurants. That's going to be the Venus. That's going to be the Hop.
What's the red one?
The red ones are going to be new. Let me see. The red ones are going to be new retail. That's going to be what they call
4 spots there?
new retail. And all of the what camera am I on? Oh, there we go. There we go. That's level 1. Oh, I have it upside down. Sorry. Not that it makes a hell of a lot of difference. Level 1, the 2 blue blocks over here on this side are Venus and Hop, and the red blocks are going to be retail stores. One could be like maybe an ice cream shop, and one could be, I don't know what else. And that's one level. On this here is level number 2, and you see all the single bedroom apartments, all right? And then there's level 3, which is another and the only thing that reminds me, and this appears to be like a central staircase, and it reminds me of my dorm at UMass.
Yeah, that's what I call it.
It looks like a dormitory. And there's no place indicated on here for parking. Where's the parking? And the current bylaw says you have to have 1.25 spaces per apartment. Okay, assuming there's only you're going to have 1.25 cars per apartment. But they want to reduce it to 1 car per apartment, and the current bylaw says you need to provide elevated parking for the vehicles so they won't get caught in a flood. So what the proponent wants to do, the property owner wants to do, is to reduce the parking requirements. Where's everybody going to park? They're going to be on the Esplanade. They're going to be plugging up the Esplanade. That's my judgment. And where are the cars going to go when it starts to flood like it does periodically down there?
I don't know. I mean, we know that the fire department can't properly get along that that new area.
Yeah, I think there's an issue there, and there's actually been, as Kevin told us when he was on the show a couple of weeks ago, the retired trooper, and other people too have heard that there have been more accidents there since they did this glamorous rebuild project. And I have seen the large fire truck trying to make that
$3 million or something stupid?
Yes, yeah.
$3 million for that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So this is going to be the last thing on the article for the annual town meeting. So you got to stay there. You got to hang out, okay? And I know the people, there it is again, Monday and Tuesday, 28 and 29. I know that there are people that are really unhappy with the prospects of 87 single room bedroom apartments. I heard a modification to that has said that there would be a handful of multi-bedroom apartments also.
Oh, so we don't even know how many.
Not
They
that I
did
know.
this trick
There
in
may have been
Halifax.
somebody threw a number like 5 or 6 out,
Yeah.
and none of them are so-called affordable. Okay, so
It looks like an MBTA overlay.
it kind
zone.
of does. It kind of does. Anyway, so going back to the select board meeting when Mike Maresco was let go. Again, there is no way of knowing right now, although people have submitted information requests to try to find out anything we possibly can about what led to this sudden. My theory, as I've said weeks ago, was that Mike Maresco has become such baggage to the town hall regime that he had to be ejected. And apparently he negotiated at the very end with an attorney for the best terms he could possibly get, and I would say 6 months' pay is not bad separation.
Yeah, I
not
would
bad.
say.
You know, and
I mean, that's 100 and what? 100 and
about 150.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 150. I mean, well, not quite, but it's up there. And I don't know, maybe if they threw in sick time or anything else like that.
Oh,
Because his
vacation
basic salary,
payout.
his basic salary was around $240 a year, so half of that would be $120, and I don't know what else was on top of that, or if there was a pay increment increase that is factored in. We don't know the details, but there are people that are trying to check it out and find out what happened. And so then we come up to, so we're trying to find out that. People are doing records requests right now to try to drill down
I
into
thought
that.
Monday night you guys were going to get an answer.
Right. So Monday night comes around, and they make the information public. They have a final executive session, and what comes out of that is that this guy, Peter Morin,
Morin?
he's currently a counselor in the city of Braintree, or town of Braintree, former town administrator or manager, I forget what, in Norwell.
Oh.
He claims to be retired, but he's an associate, or has been associated with Bob Galvin, our current town council, and John Clifford, our former town council, now Labor Council.
Okay.
So so what happened is they issued a public statement that Mike Maresco was officially out, And also what came up on the agenda was that there was going to be a discussion of an interim appointing a discussion and a vote on an interim town administrator, and also a possible discussion on the setting up of a search committee for the new town administrator. Well, we got to and also a procurement officer. So we got to the point where they said, okay, let's talk about a temporary town administrator. And under the existing laws, state and local, the town can appoint a temporary administrator for 4 months.
Okay.
4 months, that's it, no more. Maybe you can tack on 4 months after that, another week or two. I don't know if you can amend that to keep a person on. Probably you can't. So what happens? This guy, Marin, shows up. I saw him walking into town hall. I said, I've never seen him around before. He walks in, he goes right to the select board office. He gets introduced by Lynn Fiddler. And here's the guy that's up to be the interim administrator.
No.
One person.
Yeah, so there was no interviews on
No
multiple.
interviews, no competition.
Boom.
Eric Kelly, the select board member, God bless him. He says, how did you find out, Mr. Moran, how did you find out about this job? Oh, Bob told me. Oh, are you associated, Bob? Yeah. Oh, are you associated John Clifford? Yeah, I'm associated with him. Oh,
Wow.
and then Eric says, like, well, how come we didn't have other people here? You know, like compare and contrast and interview.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so Bob Galvin says, well, there were a couple of other inquiries. Inquiries? How did they know to inquire?
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, well, one is a guy who's finishing up a temporary administrator's duties at another town, and another guy is in a full-time job someplace right now. But either way, they would both want to only come on if it was a full-time job. They don't want to do the 4-month gig, all right? So I was like, well, what inquiries? Was this publicized somewhere, like in the Mass Municipal Association bulletin?
Over the weekend?
Yeah, over the weekend. Was it broadcast on the radio? Was it a banner on an airplane flying around? I mean, or did Bob Galvin and John Clifford just know they want their guy in there, and Lynn Fiddler is going to just go along like she always does?
Yeah.
And so
Time to
now
get it out.
essentially we've got somebody put in by Bob Galvin, and Lynn Fiddler just asked a series of sort of meaningless. It was like script. It was all the stuff like, you know,
Peter Moran.
very basic information about. And then Lynn Fiddler got into a discussion of sort of long-term things, like what do you think about stabilization funds and you know, different town structures and stuff like that you would talk about with somebody you're interviewing for a long-term job. But this guy insisted, my wife would really kill me if she saw me take another full-time job because I'm retired. But then at the same time, he's bouncing around to these other towns. In fact, his most recent assignment, I think, was for what he said was the town of Phillipston, I think.
Oh, okay.
Population 1,900.
Oh, wow.
Marshfield is population over 25,000.
Yeah.
Phillipston probably has like one police officer and a volunteer fire department, all right? So that's like some great preparation. But he was the town council in Norwell, but guess what? I mean, the town administrator in Norwell. Well, guess who the town council has been in Norwell during this time?
Galvin.
Bob Galvin.
You're kidding.
How about that? How about that?
Wow.
So they're like, you know, like this, or however you want to put it, obviously. At least that's the surface appearance, you know. And so to my mind, now I know who's really running things. And Lynn Fiddler, like she did all the other times, I've seen her in action at the zoning board, the select board. She's like, it's okay with me, it's okay with me. And then when she has a question, Bob, you know, that's crazy. You know,
Yeah.
but that's how they run things in this town.
It's interesting. Well, that happens in Halifax too, because I think I
Yeah.
told you the building commissioner resigned as of April 19th.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, we have one again that was no interviews
Yeah.
and friends with the town administrator.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. What's it's well,
Interesting.
there's all kinds of sayings. Oh, there we go.
Are they a couple?
I think they were just about to get on the QE2 when that was taken. Oh, I'm sorry, I mixed them up with somebody else. I didn't mean that. You see the clock on the wall? It's like 2 minutes to midnight.
Oh, wow.
It's like the doomsday clock. Lynn Fiddler's about to get reelected. The doomsday clock has just moved up to 1 minute before midnight. So anyway, I had to say that. So the meeting goes off on Monday. They discuss this temporary guy, and he comes across as kind of milquetoast. You know,
What does
oh,
that mean?
he's innocuous. He's harmless, like Norman Bates in the movie Psycho.
Oh my gosh.
You know, he wouldn't hurt anybody. He wouldn't hurt a fly. He wants a blanket. He's feeling chill. Should I give him a blanket? Yes, you can give him a blanket. I know they're watching me, and I know what they're thinking. He wouldn't hurt anyone. He wouldn't. I'm sorry, I shouldn't characterize. I don't want to characterize Mr. Morin, but he just had this quiet, like harmless-looking demeanor. But obviously, he's been around, and he's tight with Clifford and Galvin apparently. So I'm supposed to feel comfortable with that?
Ah.
And when all he's supposed to be doing is only working up to 30 hours a week, and he basically should be just answering the phone and signing purchase orders.
Yeah.
Because that's what you need. Sometimes the town administrator is the person that's designated to sign something or to maybe review a procurement process or something like that. But that's it. Why all this discussion of long-term objectives and goals and operations inside the town?
Well, it's got to look good.
Yeah.
She's up for re-election. She's definitely nervous because Trish Simpson is doing something good, and we want, not just in Marshfield, but in my town, we want people to be transparent. We can't take any more weight of these taxes and these laws.
Well, let's read how Christine Hill covered it.
Okay.
After more than an hour, Christine Hill from duxbury.substack.com. Okay.
Yeah.
After more than an hour spent in executive session this evening, the three members of the Marshfield Selectboard and the town attorney emerged from a back room and told the public absolutely nothing about why former town administrator Michael Moresco resigned. This is better than I should have just read this and we could have moved on. I'm sorry, guys. The atmosphere was funereal. In other words, like you're at a funeral, for those of you who didn't go to public school in Boston, with select board member wearing long faces and town attorney Robert Galvin looking shaken. And he did look a little shaken, but maybe that was he claimed to have a cold or something. According to a separation agreement signed with Moresco, town officials cannot tell anyone, including future employees, anything about his tenure as town administrator, except for a mutually agreed upon simple statement, very simple statement, and his dates of employment. That's standard, okay, especially for government employees like that. His employment contract had 17 months left on it. Chair Lynn Fiddler and Vice Chair Steve Darcy voted to approve the agreement. You know, Steve Darcy, as in
Duxbury.
from the most recent episode of Cops in Duxbury. Clerk Eric Kelly voted against it. All right. Now Eric voted against it. I said, Eric, why'd you vote against it? He said it was too rich.
Oh,
It was too rich of a separation agreement.
good for him.
Kelly said that some of his interactions with Moresco had been okay. See, Eric recognizes that Mike is a politician and Mike is a bureaucrat, and Mike can get things done if he's on your team, all right? He recognizes that, but that doesn't mean he should stick around, in my opinion. But he blamed whatever problems led to Moresco's resignation on lack of proper supervision by the select board. And there's the message that Eric and us and other people have been pushing for years. As we talked about here, one hand washes the, I'm sorry, I don't.
That's okay.
One
I should
hand
know
washes
that
the
better.
other, right?
Yeah.
Moresco would go, ooh, this select me, ooh, you're doing this great job, you're reaching out, you do. And then they go, oh, Mike, you're wonderful, you're doing Michael, you're doing a great job. Oh, you're so active, you give so much of your time, you're so thoughtful, back and forth, then Michael gets a raise and they get reelected. Funny how that works. Mm-hmm. And in the background is the Democrat Party, like turning all the knobs, all right? Not that there's any, again, I'm not stressing. To my friends that are Democrats, okay? You gotta recognize that that's how it works in this town. And as much as we try to stay away from party politics in the town of Marshfield, and a lot of other towns try to, that's how it is, okay? Rumors swirled around the meeting about why Maresco may have resigned, most of them unconfirmed and unrepeatable, that's for sure. What can be said is that attendees expressed discontent with his general attitude towards town residents. I can testify to that, and the lack of inclusion of payments to South Shore Tech High School on the warrant, which we just talked about. Vice Chairman Stephen Darcy made no mention of his arrest last week in Duxbury for drunk driving. The last time, and this was Darcy's first appearance in a public meeting since that incident, the last time Darcy was mentioned in this Substack, he was lecturing Marshfield residents about their behavior.
Wow.
Because we went to town meeting last spring, and people were like getting really outraged at the runaround. And some people started saying, hey, enough is enough. And then, of course, Steve Darcy had to make a big comment about after the meeting, saying that the residents embarrassed themselves, and they should have given deference to the Boy Scouts that were at the meeting to observe a town meeting. So wonder
Oh
what
my
the Boy Scouts are reading about Steve Darcy's recent adventures. So that's what happened. And by the way, Christine Hill has promised to come back on the show, and she's got some very interesting things to talk
can't
about
wait
next
to
time.
see it.
I want you out there to mark your calendar and tune in next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Christine said she's going to be here, okay? Now, we have enough time to touch upon one other thing. You may have heard that one of the meetings we had last year in June was a meeting to get together to express our concerns about the Ferry Street 40B project. And what the residents did was somebody put together, I think it was, group of residents got together and put together a citizen's petition. And the petition basically said, should the select board write a letter to the State Department of Environmental Protection asking whether construction of a large, quote, whether construction of a large multi-building project with multiple septic systems on Zone 2 of the Marshfield Town Aquifer is consistent with the public water supply regulations for the long-term groundwater supply protection in Marshfield, prior to the issuance of any permits for the construction of the project. So the residents are concerned.
Yeah.
They go, wow, a big project in an area where we know there is some really sweet wells, water supply wells nearby. Would somebody please look into this to this for us? And you don't have to be a hydrogeologist or any kind of scientist to drive down the road and go, oh, the project's going over there, and over there I can see a brick building, which I understand as a well. And guess what? And you may have heard other things like it's a sandy ground, and and the water is really, you may have picked up things along the way. But you can't separate the two. You go, project, wells, 80 plus bedrooms, 90 bedrooms almost.
You're not supposed to do that in an aquifer protection zone.
Well, it's a zone 2. Now, if some people may not know, there's a wellhead area, and then around that there's zone 1, which is area where the groundwater is immediately contributing to the intake of the well. And then there's a zone 2 around the zone 1, and the groundwater in a zone 2 goes into a zone 1, which then goes into the well. But it is typically larger in some distance. And then there is a peripheral area around that contributes to zone 2, etc. So people were concerned, rightfully. And a lot of people were opposing this project, not just on groundwater issues. That stretch of Ferry Street is really dangerous. I mean, it's a windy road. People fly down that road. There's a pedestrian crossing at a bend in the road. The access way into this project would cross what they call the bridle path, which is used by hundreds, if not thousands of people, especially in the nice weather, for bicycling and hiking and jogging. And a lot of kids ride their dirt bikes down there. And rest his soul, a poor kid was killed down there. He actually crashed into a chain that was across a roadway.
Oh my God.
Condolences. That's a horrible incident. Bob Parkus.
Sorry to hear that.
Bob Parkus knew the kid too. That was very, very, a real blow, especially for Bob, I can tell you. But anyway, so the foot traffic, the bicycle traffic, the car traffic on that road, they're going to cut across the bridle path. There's issues of demands on water supply, on lighting, on noise, on impacts, on the amount of trucks of sand and gravel that have to be removed over the period of over a year, I think it is.
From a
all
zone
that heavy
two?
truck, yeah, just to get the site prepared.
Why would we don't want to move sand from a zone
Well,
two.
they're going to, that's right. The rule says that you have to keep a thick layer of sand. You have to first determine how high is the highest groundwater. How high does the groundwater get? How close to the surface does the groundwater get? And then you have to leave a big distance between that elevation and the surface.
Yeah, over 4 feet.
Over 4 feet. So people are wondering, are they going to be, what is the water elevation so we can know how much dirt they can remove, sand and gravel? Do we know? Well, I went to the earliest hearings and I said, there's no current valid well data. The wells that are there, some of them are installed improperly. They can't even be sampled, and there are too few of them. So what did the Department of Public
Wow.
Works decide to do? They decided to spend money to get a hydrogeological study done. And they initially started out with something like 7 wells, and they said in the proposal, from what I read, that they were going to try to see if there was going to be an potential impact from this housing project, the septic systems of the new housing project, upon the upon the aquifer. And that would mean how much nitrogen is in the effluent, in the plume that's coming out of the leach field. Is there any PFAS and PFOS? You know what those are. Mm-hmm. Those are those, they call them forever chemicals that are apparently carcinogenic, but for which the government has yet to establish drinking water standards.
Right, and then so you got to wonder, like, what are people flushing down their toilets or
Right.
using on their bodies, and then that's going to go into the aquifer protection zone.
That was an issue when they built the assisted living project up behind Roach Brothers, because we knew that they were going to be flooding buckets of meds down the toilets every day, either passing through people's bodies or people discarding pills and stuff like that. So we know that in
Wow.
in so many modern household products, there's PFAS and PFOS. But guess what? There's no standard for it. The government hasn't decided how many parts per billion you can drink before you grow
Well,
a
they did drop the PFAS number not too long ago. Maury Haley did in the state of Massachusetts. Did you know that?
They dropped it?
Yeah.
Or they cut it out?
I'll send you all that
Oh, okay.
information.
Well, I know that they had like a preliminary number,
it.
which was pretty high, and they were going to allow a lot of PFAS into the water. What it is now, I don't know offhand. I haven't checked recently, but you know, so.
I feel like it's 70, but
PPB? Yeah, okay. So anyway, so from what I saw, the DPW takes and I could be wrong about some of this, so I'm not going to, this is not court testimony. The DPW does the responsible thing and says, we got to get some data here for the sake of the state of, for the peace of mind of us and everybody else in town. Let's get a handle on which way and I've said it many times at meetings, you have no hydrogeological data. How can you okay a septic system that's within sight almost of a drinking water well? And like, I'm a crazy person.
So-
I'm a buffoon.
So-
I'm a nuts. It's not a problem. We know which way the water's going. It's going to the east. Shut up. You know that. And we have a guy who's supposed to be a consultant that's supposed to be assisting the zoning board in making a decision. But to me, he always comes across as an advocate for whatever project is in front of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. So zone 2 is you're not supposed to add a bedroom that was not prior there. So if there's no bedrooms on that land, you're not supposed to. And so like say there's a house in like, you know, a neighborhood that has zone 2, okay?
Right.
If they've had 1 bedroom, when it sells and they get a new septic, they're deed restricted to have 1 bedroom from
Right.
there on. So what are we doing?
Anyway, so what happens is the DPW does their work. They put in a set of wells, and I did this for 20 years. So I mean, I know a little bit about doing hydrogeological evaluation. They put in a bunch of wells. They get initial feel for the materials in the direction of water flow, and then to get more data in the areas where they really need it, they then go back with a second round of wells and they put them at the right depths. They want to know where they're going to sample, what the material is, how fast the water is moving through. Then they can plug it all into a model, a computer model, that will tell you which way the water is going and how fast it's going. Well, guess what? Bob Galvin and some other people weren't so happy with the results.
Oh,
You know, based on what I see here, there's no doubt that the Board of Public Works and the Department of Public Works targeted the Big Dig project. They told the public that they were looking at the whole aquifer, but they changed the contract and they made it only to look at the Bridle Crossing project. The study that was commissioned was clearly tailored to come up with a specific result, to give the impression that the Big Dig project was going to pollute the Ferry Street wells. When that report came out, that report was disseminated publicly. Commissioners spoke about it. Town spoke about it at length. A town meeting presentation was given by a couple of residents that didn't want to see this project built. And a media campaign came out to say that these wells are going to be destroyed by the Bridle Crossing project. I'm very fortunate that we had 3 excellent engineers to review that so that this board didn't get caught up in it. But you'll all remember how angry people were when they were coming to this meeting and couldn't believe that you were conceptually going to approve this project. Well, you had the benefit of the information for our engineers, including Ed and Pat and Ed Eichner, who designed the Water Resource Protection District, and they said none of this was true. It's pretty obvious after that point. Mr. Murphy wanted to figure out why they didn't study the rest of the aquifer and what that effect would be. Mr. Murphy gets stonewalled for 6 months by people that were in contact with the engineers for the Board of Public Works. And as a result of that being stonewalled, Mr. Murphy finally complained to the Selectboard. Selectboard authorized that work to be done regardless of whether the Board of Public Works would do it. The work was done. It proves that the Bridle Path project wasn't going to have any impact on this project. And if there was any project that would, it would be the existing development at Silver Pines, which was much larger, much closer, as Mr. Pesci said.
And already in
It's
existence.
crystal clear that $120,000 of taxpayer money was completely wasted to try to stop this project. It cost us another $20,000 to actually, once the work was authorized, to figure out that the Silver Pines project or the existing development there was going to contribute that. $140,000 plus has been absolutely wasted just because somebody didn't like the Big Dig project. You still see people online talking about the Big Dig project polluting. It is absolutely false misinformation. No one has disavowed this report. I can't believe that, with all the money that's been wasted. And someone owes Mr. Murphy an apology because he was absolutely right about this project and got stonewalled. Sorry.
Here's the amazing thing, that this whole lengthy discussion in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals was all centered around what people were posting on social media and Facebook, instead of discussing the actual results. And how is it money wasted when you didn't have any viable or legitimate wells in place? So at least we've got a start now to start figuring it out. But this is disgusting. What a moron. And I'll end my show with the word moron.
yeah. Warren.
No. Don't go there.
All right.
So that's disgusting. We'll talk more about it in the future, but it's unbelievable that that would be done. And they would tell those 700 people that went there out of concern to just have a letter written and have the issue looked at, that they were somehow misinformed and misled and all fired up.